Hi everyone, I'm Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Equine Sanctuary. Welcome to Training Tuesday for Tuesday, August 31st, 2021. In this training video, I'm going to go over the very first target training session that you have with your snake. I've seen a lot of posts lately on social media, and I've been asked a lot of questions privately about how to get started target training your snake. I've done several other videos showing all the target training steps, but in this video, I'm only going to show you the very first step, and I'm going to show you that very first step repeatedly so many times that it's going to be imprinted in your brain. And if you don't understand the first step after watching this video, well, I guess you can still message me and I'll answer your questions. These are the things that you're going to need. You're going to need a target. And I did a whole video about choosing a target, how you can make your own target, how you can buy a target, where you can buy a target, considerations that you want to think about when you're choosing a target. So check that video out. You're going to need a reinforcer, which is going to be food. Food is a primary reinforcer, and I always start target training with food. So it's whatever your snake normally eats, that's what you're going to use. And then you're going to need a location. And so that's going to be wherever your snake normally eats. You're not going to change things just because you're target training. All you're doing is adding a target. So the food's going to be the same, and the location that the snake eats is going to be the same. So what do? It is super easy. This is like the easiest part of animal training. The very first target training step is just pairing the target with reinforcement. Allowing the snake to take the reinforcer and eat it, and then you're going to repeat that. You're going to repeat it maybe 1 to 3 times in the same session. Now remember, we don't want to overfeed the snake or feed the snake extra because you're training. So if you normally feed your snake 30 grams of rodent or 30 grams of bird or whatever, then just divide that meal into 3 10-gram portions. So if you're feeding a 30-gram rat, then maybe feed 3 10-gram rats or 3 hopper mice or something, but you get the idea. And then you're going to repeat this over several sessions. So when you feed your snake, you're going to train this step. And then the next time you feed your snake, which is going to be at its normal interval, we're not going to feed more often because we're training either. We want to give the snake its normal meals. Then you're going to repeat this, and you're going to repeat this step that you're about to see in this video as many times as is needed until you're sure that your snake is associating that target with food.
Step 1 of target training is very simple. It's just classical conditioning or associative learning. All you're doing is pairing the target with the reinforcer, which in this case is food. Earning of the reinforcer on the snake's part is not contingent on any behavior. You are just building an association between the target and the food.
Now for your questions, and I think I've probably anticipated many of them. Question number one, how do I target train my snake if it always hides? Well, I did an entire video about target training shy snakes. The link is right here. This is what the thumbnail looks like. Watch the video. It's under 20 minutes long. What if my snake doesn't eat from tongs? If your snake is not eating from tongs because it's fearful and shy, watch this target training shy snakes video. And if it's not eating from tongs just because you drop feed, no problem. Just put the target in the enclosure and drop feed on the target for several sessions until you and your snake are both ready to move on. What if my snake is afraid of the target? If they're just afraid of the target and they're not normally shy or fearful of you, then you can just start bringing the target with you to the feeding sessions and keeping it near you or keeping it in the environment. So if this fly swatter is the target and you don't want to use red, most snakes see green and blue. So you want to choose a green and blue target or one that's contrasted green and blue with another color like blue and white or green and white or something. Anyway, you just bring the target with you and have it with you when you feed. So they start getting used to seeing it in the environment. And then you can gradually bring the target closer and closer to where you're feeding the snake until you're able to pair the target with the food. If your snake is afraid of the target because they're shy and afraid of everything, I go over that in this training shy snakes video. So watch that. How old does my snake have to be to start training? As soon as they're born or as soon as they're hatched, you can start training. You just take the target and you put it in their hatchling tub or their hatchling habitat, along with the water dish and the substrate and the hide and whatever else you normally put in there. You just set the target in there from when they take their first breath, and you let them passively habituate to that target so they get used to seeing it and they're not afraid of it. And then as soon as you feed them for the very first time, however you normally feed a hatchling for the first time, you're going to do it the exact same way. You're just going to add the target to that scenario. So if you drop feed, you're just going to drop the food on the target. And if you start tong feeding right away, you're just going to tong feed in front of that target or above that target if the target's been in the tub or the bin or the habitat. And then how long after bringing my snake home should I wait to start target training? You shouldn't wait. As soon as you bring your snake home, place the target in its living space with it so that it can passively habituate to that. I go over in this target training shy snakes video exactly where you should place that target to let them passively habituate to it. You don't want to place it in an area where it's going to interfere with them getting to resources if the target happens to be something they're afraid of. So you want it kind of off to the side where they can investigate it if they want to and if they choose to. But if they're afraid of it at first, it's not going to prevent them from getting to water or their hide or heat or getting away from heat, etc. So you just start that as soon as you bring your snake home. And then as soon as you feed your snake the first time, you're going to have the target right there. If your snake's eating, it's training. I also recommend these playlists on my YouTube channel. Classes and mini courses are usually about 15 to 30 minutes long, and it's detailed information about many of the things I briefly mentioned in this video. And then the snake training playlist not only has some instruction for you, but also just tons and tons of demonstrations of the snakes being trained and of me doing snake training sessions. Okay. This is a preview of the next steps. So once you're certain that you and your snake are good with this step number one, in other words, you are certain that your snake has done this enough times that it associates that target with food, then there are other steps that you move on to. You just don't jump right to the snake following the target out of their enclosure and onto an activity stand. This snake, Radek, is showing actually the next 3 steps. So when this video starts over again, I will tell you what those are. And you're going to teach these one at a time, not all at once like you're seeing here. The next step is that the snake orients to the target when there's no food paired with it. The step after that is that the snake moves towards the target. And then the next step is that the snake follows the target when you move it away from the snake a little bit. And Radek has demonstrated all 3 of those steps in this video. But again, you want to make sure that you have step 1 solidly in place. And then each of the 3 steps you saw here are going to be trained one at a time, and I'll go over those in future videos, or you can watch my video on step-by-step target training, and I go through all those steps in detail in that video. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate everybody wanting to train their snakes and other animals, and that you're continuing to learn and progress your reptile care. Always be kind and love your animals. Message me or comment below if you have any additional questions that I didn't think of.